Hey there, Regina Andler here on Autumn Ascent Consulting, and it is time for Tips and Tricks Tuesday. I have a tip and a trick for you today. Back in the past, I talked about capturing ideas when you're out and about and you're out walking around, or maybe you're out driving and doing something. And we talked about the power of leaving yourself a message on the phone and just talking to yourself in a message to yourself. Now, what do you do with all of that information when you come back home? So you come back home and you're sitting there, or maybe you're sitting at your desk and you're in the middle of a meeting, and all of a sudden a brilliant idea comes to you, and you're trying to figure out, all right, I got to capture that. I'm paying attention though, and so I can't capture that while I'm paying attention. What do I do? I want to write this down. I learned a trick, a tip from my own business consulting this past year that I put into practice. And I have to tell you, it is one of the best things I have done all year as far as these little tips are concerned. And it concerns index cards. So, you know, these handy dandy little index cards, they're great, right? And you can get them really cheap. You can go to the dollar store, you can pick up, index cards really super cheap. This stack is always right here on my desk. What do I do with that? Every time I come up with some idea, or I'm sitting in a meeting and something comes to my head, or maybe somebody says a phrase and I want to capture that phrase because I'm like, wow, that was a great line. I write them down on my index cards. And I have this pile right in front of me. So what is the use of this pile? Each card gets one and only one thought. So whatever it is, this one happens to say, somebody was talking to me the other day and I was telling them about my index cards. And so she said, wow, that's really cool. And so I wrote tips and tricks using index cards on one so that I wouldn't forget it. I was in the middle of a meeting with her and she said, wow, that sounds like a great idea. So I wrote it down on one of my index cards. And so all of these cards all have different things on them. And what I do is I go through the stack. And so when I need something, or when something jogs my memory and I'm like, oh, I know that I wrote that down, I'll go through my cards. It could be something I'm putting into some copy, into a blog, onto a Facebook post, or something I want to talk about with my clients. And maybe it was a phrase or something that I heard, or a good quote that I wanted to make sure I passed on. I write it down in these cards, and then I use it wherever I need to use it. They're sitting in front of me all the time. So even if I'm thinking about, well, geez, I want to put a post out today, I'm not quite sure what I want to write in my post today. When I have one of those little, brain cramps, I'll look through my cards and go, oh, this one's really good. I have a card right here that says, instead of using the word upsell, use the word upserve. How cool is that? I'm going to be using that in a post soon, because one of my friends, Bob Berg, said that line on one of his posts, and I thought that was brilliant. So what did I do? I wrote it down on a card so that I could use it later. This is the power of the index cards. It makes it so you don't forget what those little thoughts that come in and out of your head, and you're like, oh man, I thought about something. It was really cool. It was really good. And now I forget what it was. All you got to do is pull out an index card, jot it down, put it aside, pay attention to whatever it is that you're doing, focusing on at the time, get right back into that, and you never lose a thought. All of those thoughts that you recorded on your phone, when you come back to your office, you take each one of those, you write them down on a card. You don't have to worry about finding them or where you left them on your phone. So my tip for today is using index cards to capture your thoughts. It's a great way to remember. And there's a front and a back, so I do use both sides before I recycle them. So they do end up in the recycle bin eventually. However, I use the front and the back so they get fully utilized before they go out. So there's your tip for today. I hope you can put this into practice if you are one of those people who have those thoughts that come in and out, and you're constantly saying, oh man, I had this great thought during the meeting and I totally forgot about it because you didn't write it down because you were focusing on what you were supposed to be focusing on, whatever the meeting was about. And so you missed it and then you lost it. The index cards takes 2 seconds, jot it down, save it, never lose a thought again. There you go. There's my tips and tricks for Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. I hope you all have a fabulous day. Bye for now.